we've seen more cyclists in a day and a half in Italy than we've seen this entire trip. Crazy.
This week we rode from Ancona to Bari in Italy. Our original plan was to continue up the coast of Croatia into Slovenia and then go into Italy and end our trip in Venice. But when we got to Split, we checked the weather and it said rain, 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 rain every single day for northern Croatia, Slovenia, and northern Italy.
For basically all of Europe, except for southern Italy.
Yeah. And so we sat down and we're pretty much like, crap. Well, we don't want to end our trip in 2 weeks of rain, or a week and a half of rain, whatever it was going to be. So I sat down and looked at the weather map and looked around, and pretty much the only place that would be reasonable for us to go in Europe where it wasn't supposed to rain every single day and be super cold was the Adriatic coast in southern Italy. So we made a new plan, which was to take the boat from Split to Ancona. It's an overnight ferry. And then ride from Ancona down the coast and then over and actually end in Sicily.
And that didn't work either.
That didn't work either because the weather once again caught up to us. So we ended up cutting the trip a little bit short, maybe by like a week.
Yeah. Long story short, we should have just come home from Split.
Yeah, we should have. We
but
tried to outrun the weather and it didn't work out.
No.
It's just like we're back in the US, except we're in Italy. They sure love their McDonald's here. Our first taste of fall. The leaves are just starting to turn yellow here.
Since it was not tourist season anymore, everything was closed, and that made it hard to find a campsite. You ride down the road, everything's fenced off. Like, obviously they don't want people coming in. It looked sad. It looked like it was at war because all the buildings were barred.
Yeah.
Doors were barred
Or
off,
bricked
windows were barred off. Yeah, it looked like a bygone era.
Yeah. Which the first night or two we thought, okay, whatever, like we'll just go to a paid campsite.
Yeah, all the paid campsites were closed.
Yep,
It wasn't
that didn't work
tourist season.
out. Yep.
We tried to camp in a nature park, but couldn't find anywhere because it was all swamp.
Mm-hmm.
And there was people in it. The abandoned buildings there were bricked up.
Yep. Long story short, we ended up spending between 1 to 2 hours looking for a campsite every single day that we rode in Italy from Ancona to Bari.
Yeah.
It was awful. Like, there's nothing worse than, like, you've ended your day, you've done your miles or kilometers for the day, and you still don't get to set up camp and relax for another 2 frickin' hours because it's that hard to find a wild campsite.
Last night we camped on our first night in Italy in this lovely abandoned place behind me here that was absolutely strewn with broken glass and needles and syringes. So not the most ideal, but we literally searched for probably almost an hour yesterday for some place to stay, and this was the best we could find. Italy really does a good job of discouraging wild camping. Like, all the abandoned buildings are bricked up, so you can't get in them. And it was super wet yesterday, so we didn't really want to camp, like, back in the reeds and shit. And we tried first looking in a nature reserve, but it was really abandoned with, like, 8-foot tall reeds, and there was just nowhere good to put the tent. And we're on the coast right now, and the rest of the area is really, like, marshy and just not good for camping, so it was rough. We even tried to look at some paid campsites, because there were a ton of paid campsites, like 2 in every little town on the map, and hotels, and everything was closed for the season. Like, literally everything, like gates locked, fences around everywhere. So Italy left us no choice but to wild camp, and this was the best we could find. I'm hoping that tomorrow will be easier, but I'm not very optimistic, so we'll see. Today we are off to Vasto, another 100 kilometers down the Italian coast. And the sun's finally out, so hopefully it will be a beautiful day. Broke another spoke on the drive side, so once again we are stopped at a bike shop, and Justin's gonna take the cassette off and replace the spoke. Fun times. I don't know what happened. Every single day since we left Kavala, we have broken at least one spoke. Every single day. It's ridiculous. And for no reason. I mean, today's ride was flat and we were coasting and it just popped off. I don't know. Justin's pretty frustrated at this point, but we've only got 2 weeks of riding left on this trip, so hopefully it'll make it through to the end. Hey! Ciao. And we have seen more cyclists in a day and a half in Italy than we've seen this entire trip. Crazy.
We camped in a nature reserve on the beach, which was actually probably
nice.
one of the best.
Yeah. We met like an 85-year-old Italian grandpa, and Italians don't normally speak English, and this 80-something-year-old spoke English to us.
Yeah,
Crazy.
he was really cool. He had lived in Australia, I think it was, for like 20 years or something like that.
Yeah, when he was 20.
Yeah.
So southern Italy, not very interesting. It's basically like the Midwest of the US, or the West. It's probably why they make spaghetti westerns, the Western
Yeah.
movies filmed in Italy, because it's a whole bunch of flat nothingness. Not very interesting to ride through, lots of wind, and yeah, boring.
Yeah.
We camped last night in this shithole town that seems kind of abandoned, more just everything's closed. There are still people who live here though, like a handful of them. I don't know, it's really strange. But we camped behind me in this, the back of a pizza shop with like a cover. It ended up being pretty nice. It sheltered us from the wind. It is so windy. I hope it's less windy today, but we'll see. Today we're off to Bari, and we're following the coast again, so fingers crossed it will be a much better ride than yesterday's, which, quite frankly, sucked.
So this was actually our second trip to Italy. On our first trip, we loved it. We went to like all the touristy spots. It was super beautiful. This time, we thought we were gonna like, you know, get off the beaten path and see more of like the not touristy part of Italy. And I guess I still expect it to be beautiful.
Well, we came to realize that the not touristy part of Italy is a shithole. It's
Pretty much.
really the nice parts of Italy are the tourist places, and everywhere else is just let to rot.
That's pretty much what it
Disappear.
looked like, yeah. We were just really disappointed by Italy. The only thing that wasn't disappointing was the food was still delicious. We probably should have just ended in Croatia because Italy was a huge letdown. But I was determined not to end our trip on a bad note. So when we got to Bari, I sat down on the computer and I looked up touristy places around Bari that we could go see to see something beautiful before we left Italy, because I was so determined not to end our trip on a bad note. And what I looked up, I found 2 towns, Alberobello and Matera, that we could make a loop and go to both of those towns and then come back to Bari and fly out of Bari to go home. So that's what we ended up doing. And it was great. I was really glad that we did that. Basically, what I learned is that you go to Italy for the towns and not necessarily for the scenery. At least the majority of Italy.
Yeah, southern Italy anyways.
Because when I was looking up like cool places to see, literally everything I could find was just this hill town and that hill town. And we're like, we don't want to ride our bike up a super steep hill to a hill town.
I don't want to go to a hill town.
But yeah, that's kind of all there is in the majority of Italy. The only place I know that's different is the Alps in northern Italy, which we weren't going to be able to see because the weather was way too cold at this point.
Oh.
The first stop on our loop out of Bari in search of something beautiful in this dang country was Alberobello.
Nice pointy houses. Point, point. We found the pointy hut buildings.
But basically, it's a town full of these little white conical huts that were built, I think in like the 1500s or something. The story that I heard of why they exist is actually because they were built to avoid paying taxes. So they're structures that are made without any mortar in them so that they can be easily dismantled if and when the king were to come and like assess the town for paying taxes. Their plan was to just dismantle all the buildings and say, oh, we don't have any of these properties or buildings that we have to pay taxes on. That was the plan, but I guess that never happened because they're pretty much all still there. And they're these really unique looking structures. They're like white. Justin thinks they look like titties.
Yeah, Tittyville.
Yeah. But it was cool. I've certainly never seen any other place like it.
Yeah, and they wanted like $80, $100 a night to stay in one of those places in town.
Mm-hmm.
We rode out of town, found our own abandoned truly, and camped in it.
Yeah.
For free.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not the most comfortable campsite we ever had.
No, but the price was right.
Yeah. The inside was like strewn with all these rocks, and we ended up camping in like the one little flat spot of concrete at the back of the building, but it was too short for Justin. So
yeah.
I think you slept like all scrunched up all night.
Yeah, my head was on one wall, my feet were up on the other wall.
Yeah. But hey, it worked out and it kept us out of the rain. So
Yeah.
it's good.
We got the full Truly experience last night, sleeping in an abandoned Truly house in this olive grove. And yeah, it was pretty cool. It was, I don't know, just an abandoned building really. But kept us out of whatever rain and shit the weather was deciding to do yesterday. And now we're off to Matera. See another
Something.
pretty village. I don't know.
Another something.
We'll see. We're trying to find some beautiful spots in Italy before we leave.
It's our last something.
Yeah. 2 more days of riding.
Our second stop after Alberobello was the hill town of Matera. And
Hilltown is right.
Yeah.
It's way up on top of the hill, super steep.
Yeah.
All the roads in Italy up to these stupid hill towns are ridiculously steep. Not exactly very fun to get to on the bike.
No. But once we got there, it was really cool. I mean, it's a little bit misleading because it's kind of like any bigger town where there's like an old town section and then the rest of the city is just like normal looking city. So when we pulled up, I was kind of like, where's the cool looking place? Because you can't see it from like the entrance to the city.
Yeah, it's on the backside in a river gorge.
Yeah. But once we got up there and saw it, I mean, it was pretty cool. Like Justin said, it's like in a gorge or like on the side of a cliff kind of. And so it's basically like the old town goes like this. So there's like a wall of old buildings on one side, a wall of old buildings on the other. It was really cool. Needless to say, we did not walk down into the town because we were really tired.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to walk all the way down, all the way back up. But it was very pretty, very picturesque, very Italian, old town feeling.
Today we met the nicest Italians ever at this bike shop called Bicicletta, and they gave us these free socks. So we stopped there because we had 2 broken spokes on the drive side, and we couldn't get the cassette off yesterday. We tried for quite a while and it wasn't budging. So we had to stop at a bike shop. We found one in this town and they were seriously like the nicest people ever. They wouldn't accept any money, nothing, and they gave us free socks and they followed us on Instagram. It was so cool. They were really nice. So we're having a really good end to our trip and it makes me happy. All right, our last camp spot of the trip.
And it's a good one.
It is a good one. How's it feel?
I'm excited to be done.
Excited.
Are you excited to be done?
Yeah. It's funny though that the last 2 nights we've had so much trouble finding wild camp spots in Italy, and these last 2 nights have both been super easy.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of cool. But yeah, we're almost done. Tomorrow we ride back to Bari, and then we
go
fly
home.
home. Almost over. It's our last day of riding. We're leaving Matera and heading back to Bari.
After Matera, we rode back to Bari, packed up all our things, and flew home. We ended up packing everything down into the bike, and all the bike stuff mostly went into the suitcase that we were pulling as a trailer. And we stuffed our panniers full of our other stuff, and then I think we had like 1 extra tote bag full of stuff.
We bought one,
that was it.
one special reusable grocery bag to stuff the rest of our stuff in, and we were done.
So yeah, we were able to condense all our stuff down pretty well. And get on the flight, no problem.
Nice to be home.